Okay, one way to think about the modes is that they are a subset of scales within a parent scale. And so this parent scale that I'm speaking of is the major scale. Here we have laid out the C major scale in one octave, right? And then if you know anything about the major scale, you know it's 2 whole steps, a half step, 3 whole steps, and a half step. Now the modes are hidden within the major scale. So for example, the Ionian mode is synonymous with the major scale. They're one and the same. So the major scale and the Ionian mode, it's the same thing. The second mode of the major scale is called Dorian. Okay, Dorian starts on the second degree of the major scale. Here I have the major scale in 2 octaves, but Dorian would start on the second note, okay, and end on the second note. This is D Dorian. Now notice something. The Dorian mode has its own set of intervals, like its own interval sequence, if you will. You know, as we stated earlier, the major scale is 2 wholes, a half, 3 wholes and a half, but look at the Dorian mode. The Dorian mode is different. It's a whole step, a half step, 3 whole steps, a half step, and then a whole step. So each mode has its own unique interval sequence, if you will. Okay, now let's put that back. Now the third mode of the major scale is Phrygian, and in this case that's from E to E. And again, notice Phrygian has its own interval sequence: half step, whole, 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 half step, whole step, whole step. All right, the fourth mode, okay, is Lydian, and in this case that's from F to F. Alrighty, and then the fifth mode, it's Mixolydian, from G, from G to G. Alrighty, the sixth mode is Aeolian. Okay, it starts on the 6th degree, from A to A. And then lastly, the 7th mode would be Locrian, and that would be from B to B. Now this is one way to think about the modes, and that's the order that they naturally appear in the major scales. So the first mode is Ionian, second is Dorian, third is Phrygian, fourth is Lydian, fifth is Mixolydian, A is Aeolian, the sixth mode is Aeolian, the seventh is Locrian. One way to remember these Greek names is this mnemonic. A student of mine told me about this, and it's in Denver, people like music a lot. So in, the word in, that would represent Ionian. Denver, that's Dorian. People, that would be Phrygian. Like would be Lydian. Music would be Mixolydian. And then A, that's Aeolian, and then lot is Locrian. In Denver, people like music a lot. So maybe that mnemonic will help you to remember the order of the modes as they naturally occur in the major scale. Now I want to look at the 7th chords that are constructed from the root of each mode. So if we look at Ionian, right, and we start from the root and we use a skip sequence of every other note, okay, we have what is called a major 7th arpeggio or a major 7th chord. So that would be the root, the major 3rd, the perfect 5th, and the major 7th. Another way to describe that is simply 1, 3, 5, 7. And we're looking at this because when we start the exercises of the modes later on in the video, we're going to be playing up and down the mode, ascending, descending. Then we're going to be pedaling the intervals, and then we're going to be playing the 7th arpeggio that is in the particular mode. So let's take a look now at the second mode that naturally occurs in the major scale, and that's the Dorian mode. And inside of the Dorian mode we have the minor 7th arpeggio or minor 7th chord, and that's built off the root, the minor 3rd, the perfect 5th, and the minor 7, or simply 1, flat 3, 5, and flat 7. Up next in the Phrygian mode we also have a minor 7th arpeggio or minor 7th chord. And again, that's from the root, the minor 3rd, the perfect 5th, and the minor 7. And then from the Lydian mode, we have a major 7th arpeggio. And that is built off the root, the major 3rd, the perfect 5th, and the major 7. In Mixolydian, we have the dominant 7th arpeggio or chord, and that's built off the root, the major 3rd, the perfect 5th, and the minor 7, or simply 1, 3, 5, flat 7. From the Aeolian mode, we have the minor 7, built off the root, the minor 3rd, the perfect 5th, and the minor 7. And then lastly, with Locrian, we have a minor 7 flat 5, or you could call it a half diminished 7th chord or arpeggio, and that's built off the root, the minor 3rd, the diminished 5th, and the minor 7, or simply 1, flat 3, flat 5, and flat 7. Now let's take a look at the modes from a different perspective.